Hey everybody, I'm Adrian Bustamante.
I'm BC Hoffman.
And this is Recipe Wars. Today we are going to be doing some Eggs Benedict.
Over easy poached egg with Canadian bacon. Sorry, I was dreaming for a second.
Wake up.
Okay, we're gonna make it.
Again, who is the chef and what's your recipe?
So I'm doing Alton Brown, and he takes the traditional recipe and he just tweaks it ever so slightly. He actually has a couple techniques that he's using.
For servings, we require 8 very fresh eggs. Over time, the thick white around the yolk, not to mention the yolk membrane itself, breaks down, making poaching all but impossible. So buy fresh or get yourself some chickens. Now, when your water hits a boil, back off the heat. Just maintain about 205 degrees. That's key. Now, 5 minutes is going to be the cook time, and keep monitoring that heat for 205 degrees. Now, at the 5-minute mark, we start extracting the eggs. Now, you can refrigerate your eggs in their bath for up to 6 hours without losing any real quality. So, we will turn our attention to the Hollandaise, and for that we'll need 3 egg yolks, oh, those are already out, and half a pound of unsalted butter. Hey!
And he takes the traditional recipe and he just tweaks it ever so slightly. He actually has a couple techniques that he's using that I haven't used before when I'm actually poaching my egg. He puts it straight in the ramekin. Yeah. Having worked in the industry, I've done it a number of ways, one of which is the vortex, where you basically drop it in after actually twirling the water around in a vortex after it's been boiling. And the other way, which I used to do at Michelle Bernstein's restaurant, was taking it and putting it in plastic wrap. Take truffle oil, put it in the bottom with the actual egg, and then just drop it in. It is, but it came out perfect every time. And he uses the Julienned Canadian bacon, which is great because it's more to the bite-sized portion, which is exactly what Julienne is. Julienne is just basically long, thin strips that are almost like matchstick size. And that's what you got right here. And then he actually sautés those up. It's gonna be perfect. This is how you do an Eggs Benedict.
And then I am doing the Jacques Pepin and Julia Child recipe, which again is the classic recipe that I've known for years.
All right, I have a couple of egg yolk here, and I'm going to put a little bit of water in there and a little bit of lemon juice.
A tablespoon each of lemon juice?
Yes, well, about a tablespoon altogether. And what you want to do, you want your egg yolk to be cooked enough. Often people are so afraid of cooking those egg yolks that actually they are not cooked enough, you know. But of course, you want to be careful not to do scrambled eggs. So, you know, sometimes you move them out, you move them back in when you feel that it's going a bit too fast.
The ingredients in this recipe are very similar to the ingredients in BC's recipe. I have some Canadian bacon as well. I'm not going to julienne mine, I'm just going to throw it in a little bit of heat before I put it on the final product. But then we also have my eggs, some butter for the Hollandaise sauce, some cayenne pepper, some white pepper, some regular salt, and we're gonna be good to go. So all the classic ingredients to any good Eggs Benedict and Hollandaise recipe. So I'm ready to go if you are.
Let's do this.
What are we getting started with first?
So I think
Hollandaise?
Let's do the Hollandaise first because that actually can stay at room temperature slightly. We're gonna keep it warm. This is one of the most difficult and at the same time simple things to do. It's difficult because it's a pain in the butt. Outside of that, it's actually kind of easy. Here's the trick. You don't want it to break. That is key when you're making Hollandaise sauce. So all you're gonna do, you're gonna throw your egg yolks in your pan, and there's 2 different techniques to traditionally make your Hollandaise. One is over a double boiler, and you're gonna basically take a bowl, put over a bowl of pot of hot water, and then you're just gonna whisk that bad boy up. I'm not a fan of this. This is what they do in all the steakhouses, and I'll tell you why. Because when you are actually using the direct heat source underneath the pan, it controls the heat and the temperature that much better. And you have to constantly be on top of this, whisking vigorously. That is key. So let's throw, I think they're both almost the exact same.
With the way Jacques Pepin did it was the same exact way. It's just putting the eggs in with a little bit of lemon, a little bit of water, about a tablespoon of each, or as Jacques said, you can actually use a tablespoon of one or the other. I'm obviously gonna add lemon to mine to give it that little bit of acidic flavor that we all know and love.
There's 2 keys when you are whisking. One, make sure you use a metal whisk. 2, keep whisking, because if you don't whisk enough, you're gonna have the scrambled egg
Scrambled
effect.
eggs.
You don't want scrambled eggs. In fact, if you have scrambled eggs, you gotta start from scratch. If you break it later on, you're good. You can fix that. You can't fix it if you have scrambled eggs. The other thing, Windsor pans. Great way to do it. It's got that nice curve. The eggs can't hide in the pan, and you can get them at any angle with your whisk. So let's
Hate it when
throw-
eggs hide.
Don't hide from me, eggs. So we're gonna throw those in. We're gonna throw in our lemon juice, and we're gonna throw in 1 tablespoon of butter as well as the 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. We're gonna just whisk that without even being on the heat yet. We're just gonna whisk that for about a minute. And you're just gonna get a nice, wonderful, fluffy emulsion. And what's so tough about this is you're doing 2 different types of emulsion. You're doing the first emulsion with the lemon juice and the water and the yolk, and then you're doing a second emulsion over the heat with the actual butter and the seasoning thrown in there.
The biggest difference between our two is you're using butter that isn't melted, where mine is already melted, right?
Right. Real quick note, I'm not a fan of either of these techniques because traditionally, the best way to do it and the best way to get the flavor and at the same time the softness in your hollandaise is to use clarified butter. Melted butter, you still have the fat solids and you still have the water. That's a large percentage of fat from your butter fat and also from the water that you have in your butter. Solid butter, great flavor, but again, you're getting a huge amount of the butter fat and also the water, and it also cools the pan too much too quickly. I like it when it's clarified, you cool it down just the temperature you want before you add it in. So our hollandaise is good to go. We're just gonna dump that into a nice warm water bath. You want it hot, but not too hot, because what happens if it's too hot? It'll break.
It'll break on you.
No!
Some good hollandaise sauce right there.
Oh yeah. It's funny because in the steakhouses we used to make the same thing, but we used to incorporate it with Worcestershire and we used to use Tabasco, and it would just be a nice addition in flavor instead of using cayenne, using the hot sauce. And
the cayenne is definitely going to add more of a light kick to it, where, like you said, if you add something like a Tabasco or a Worcestershire, it's going to definitely give that extra punch that you can definitely taste that flavor right away. You want to make sure you simmer your water. You're not going to boil it, otherwise you're going to end up with a scrambly mess, not a nice soft poached egg we're looking for.
so coagulating eggs is basically what's going to happen is the egg white is going to form a nice round cup around your yolk, and it's just going to be beautiful, so that way it's the perfect cover for your yolk. So when you cut right in or you poke that yolk, it's just going to ooze right out, and the white is going to be your protein cover. The other thing that's important is when you're testing your egg to see how fresh it is as the egg gets older, it will float more to the top. And the reason why is there's a little air pocket right on the top of the egg that will actually expand as the egg gets older. So just a little fact if you want to see how fresh your eggs are. If you get them from the farmer's market and they say it's fresh and it floats right to the top, guess what? They're lying.
Another great tip to check freshness is on the box. If you're gonna buy yours from a grocery store, obviously you can see the sell-by date, which on this is December 8th. But if you didn't know, there's actually a number to the left of it usually. Now this number is 313. Now that means it was packed in this box on day 313 of that year. So these eggs were actually packed on November 9th. So you're looking at about a 30-day, freshness level before you really have to toss your eggs out, but these are pretty fresh eggs, so another way to test it out. Now I'll be placing my eggs in the ramekins. Now what I'm gonna be doing is just placing them in the ramekin to make it easier for me to put them in my simmering water. You, on the other hand, will be cooking yours in the ramekin, right?
I'm cooking it right in the ramekin. That's how Alton Brown did it in his recipe. It's really unique because I have never done that before. So he doesn't even grease up the ramekin, he just throws them right in with the hot water. And yeah, so.
The funny thing about Alton Brown is he's very versatile and he can do a lot of different things. And I actually have come to like him more and more when I start watching his videos. I've seen his video where he actually cooks it this way as well as this way, which is, like I said, he's just got a lot of different, he's got a lot of knowledge, let's put it that way.
I know we've said it before, on camera before, to you guys, and it's really true. Alton Brown is the Bill Nye, the science guy, Mr. Wizard in the kitchen. And it's so cool to see the different techniques that he uses because he doesn't use traditional kitchen techniques. He uses techniques that just are out there that you wouldn't think of normally.
I think it's just something that you learn, and that's a good thing about being in a kitchen as well. It's just you learn more and you learn what works better for you as you go along. So it may not be the technically correct way, but doesn't necessarily make it a bad way.
Adapt.
Adapt. All right, well, I'm gonna let my water continue to kind of simmer up. You'll know if you're cooking it in the skillet, the best way to know if your water is kind of ready is you'll start to see bubbles forming a little bit. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my slotted spoon and kind of wipe those bubbles away. Reason being is I want a nice looking egg, and if you leave those bubbles in there, they can actually form a little bit of divots into your poached egg if you leave them. So, we're gonna make sure those bubbles aren't there.
So the other thing is in your water, now there's two ways you can do it. You can actually put the white vinegar into the water prior to it boiling or right when it starts boiling. So I'm gonna throw that in because I'm just starting to get to a simmer. Either way works. And then you're just gonna lower the heat ever so slightly. Because again, you just wanna simmer, you don't wanna boil. And once that water is ready to go, you put your eggs in, you're looking at 3 minutes. 3 minutes, once the water is boiling, you just lower the heat or turn it off even and just throw your eggs in.
And for me, once this is ready and I do place these into the water, the key is being really, really careful. You don't want the yolks to break, so the more careful you are, the better. It's not a race. You just want these to cook nice and gradually in the water. Our poached eggs are out of their water, and now I'm gonna throw a little bit of my Canadian bacon on my pan to kind of heat it up before I plate, but you're almost ready to plate, right? I'm
actually ready to plate right now. So now, real quick, what you wanna make sure of is as soon as this is ready, you want to plate it right away. Otherwise, what you want to do is throw the egg in an ice bath, get it cold, right before it's ready to cook, and then you only have to warm it up for 1 minute, or you just have to plate it right away. So I'm going to plate it right away. I've got my muffin right here, boom, and I actually really love the technique that Alton Brown does. So I've got the Canadian bacon right there, and lots of it because I love Canadian bacon. And then I've got my nicely poached egg going right on top. The Tower of Triumph. And then, lastly, of course, let's get some more hollandaise right on top of that.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. And see how thick that is? That is what you want. You don't want it too thick, you don't want it too thin, you want it right like that. That is how you want your hollandaise sauce. That is sexy right there.
Sexy hollandaise sauce.
Sexy hollandaise.
All right, with me, I've taken the same thing, my English muffin, put on a base, taken my Canadian bacon, placed that in the bottom with no hollandaise sauce on the bottom, and then of course taken my poached egg and placed that on top. And last, but definitely not least, we're gonna place the hollandaise sauce over the top. We're gonna see who's got the better hollandaise sauce.
Hollandaise sauce is very similar to a bunch of other sister sauces out there. You've got your Sabayon, you've got your Béarnaise, you've got your Mornay. Tons of different sauces that you can do. This is the base of it right here. And this is tradition, and this is how your eggs Benedict.
Why not just a little more sauce? I mean, who doesn't like the hollandaise sauce? There you go, and of course, garnish top, and boom. All right, we're back, and now it's time to see which of these egg Benedict recipes is gonna be better. So obviously this is Jacques Pepin and Julia Child's recipe for the Hollandaise sauce. So let's make sure you get a little egg in there,
Yeah.
a little ham, a little everything. Just dig in, go.
Okay,
go for
I'm
it.
going right in for the yolk. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so runny.
Look at that runny yolk.
Where are you running to? Get back here.
And that's what you're looking for. When you have a poached egg, you want that nice runny yolk come seeping out. Just adds extra flavor to your dish. We'll see what this is all about, huh? What do you say?
It's good. And I'm just gonna poke one thing.
Sure.
The hollandaise is a little thick. I would have added a little water to it. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Just to thin it out a little bit more.
And all you need to do is add just a little bit of warm water to it if you start to see it thicken up a little bit. Not even, just a tad bit, and it'll definitely thin it out a little bit more.
And you can totally season the hollandaise sauce to your taste with a little salt, a little pepper as you go along.
All right, let's try this one.
That being said, Canadian bacon, runny egg, perfection on an English muffin. Let's go in for the nooks and crannies on this bad boy.
Get some yolk in here too. Let's go. Oh, look at that!
Boom! And that's the explosion that you want from the yolk just coming right out of your egg right there, and it's gonna be perfect. Ah, I'm excited. Are you excited at home, viewers? Because I am excited.
Very good.
And you know what? I wasn't sure how I was gonna like the Julienned Canadian bacon, but I actually think I got more Canadian bacon with it being Julienned than just the one piece or the two pieces that you would traditionally put on. So I kind of like that a lot more because of that. Yeah.
The one thing I'll say is there was a little bit, I mean, obviously you use lemon, so that's one thing you have to watch out for when you do, season your hollandaise sauce with it. This one is a little bit more acidic than I would normally like. Doesn't make it bad, it just makes it just a little bit more acidic than I would normally like to put in there, but they're both really good. All right.
So the question is,
which one?
Who is the winner? You know what, I'm gonna go right for it.
Go for it.
I'm gonna say Alton Brown. Alton Brown with the technique that he used for the poached egg, it just made it was actually a really good poached egg. And I mean, they both came out great, but I liked the technique that he used on that. I liked the technique he used on the Canadian bacon. And I really like the technique of putting the hollandaise underneath the actual muffin. I actually like it because it adds that extra moisture in your biscuit or muffin, whatever you're putting on top, brioche, your call at home. But I really like that. I'm going with Alton Brown.
Alton Brown, huh? All right, well, I'm gonna go with Alton Brown also, more because of this, I did like the Julienne Canadian bacon. I think the hollandaise sauces were, I mean, the taste in the hollandaise sauces were so similar that it was that really wasn't the one that was gonna tip it. I mean, they were basically made the same minus melted butter versus non-melted butter. But I had to look for something a little bit different, and I think that little extra bit, like you said, you've got a little bit more hint of Canadian bacon than you would with the Julia Child Jacques Pepin recipe.
An extra Canadian bacon goes a long way.
It does.
You don't necessarily have to do Canadian bacon at home. You can substitute it with anything. You can do it over artichokes in case you don't want to do the muffin.
I would stick with meat.
I would too. I would stick with a pork product, but by all means, do whatever you want. So that being said, the winner of this recipe war, Alton Brown. Second place, but a close second. You can't go wrong with either one, Julia Child and Jacques Pepin. You can't go wrong with either because they both use Canadian bacon, and I'm happy. So, that being said, I'm BC Hoffman.
And I'm Adrian Bustamante.
And you've just caught Recipe Wars. Please subscribe to our channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and please keep watching, and we will keep on cooking.